Hello and welcome to the final podcast in this series. If you've ever looked at a Leibniz manuscript, you'll have noted that he crossed out quite a lot of what he wrote, from individual words to complete sentences, and in some cases, entire paragraphs. Many editions of his writings ignore this. They present only the final version of a text, presumably the version that Leibniz was satisfied with. But the new 3-volume edition of his philosophical papers records thousands of deletions, allowing us to watch his thinking unfold on the page. In this episode, we'll take a closer look at some of these deletions. So today, we'll be deleting Leibniz, so to speak. Of course, all of us make mistakes when we write. We think of better ways to phrase a point, or we change direction halfway through a sentence. Today, when we delete something on a word processor, it disappears into the void, never to be seen again. But Leibniz didn't have that luxury. When he changed his mind, the only option was to strike the words out or scribble over them. Fortunately for us, many of these crossed out words are still readable. With a bit of patience, we can see what Leibniz first wrote before he decided to revise it. And it's a shame that some editions of his writings don't capture these deletions. 2 reasons for saying that. First, it hides the development of Leibniz's thinking as he writes. And second, it deprives us of material that can be historically or philosophically revealing. Let's look at 3 examples. We'll begin with a famous text, the Discourse on Metaphysics, the first systematic presentation of Leibniz's metaphysical views. There are 2 manuscripts of the complete text, Leibniz's original draft and a fair copy on which Leibniz made some amendments. Depicted on the screen is the fair copy. Now, an interesting feature of the fair copy is that Leibniz deleted several remarks about the status of bodies. He does this in sections 11, 12, 34 and 35. Take section 34. Originally, the section began with a long sentence in which Leibniz claimed that he didn't want to consider whether bodies are substances or only true phenomena, like a rainbow. Similar remarks are deleted in sections 11, 12 and 35. We might surmise that when Leibniz first wrote the Discourse, he was unsure about the metaphysical status of bodies. He says as much several times. But when he later reviewed the fair copy, he decided to remove these passages. In the final version of the text, Leibniz simply assumes that bodies are substances. The possibility that they might instead be phenomena quietly disappears. Why did he delete these passages? Well, that's a larger question, one we cannot get into here, but if you are interested in how Leibniz conceived bodies, it's hard not to wonder why he removed so many passages expressing uncertainty. Our second example comes from a manuscript written in 1679 about establishing a German scientific society. The text serves as both a plan and a consultation. Leibniz wanted to get feedback on his idea from those who would potentially be members of this society. Now, at the top of the page, Leibniz deleted 2 sentences. The first one reads, Elsholtz can write to several people with the name of the proposer suppressed. This tells us that Leibniz planned to recruit one of his correspondents, Johann Sigismund Elsholtz. So Leibniz planned to recruit him to drum up support for the project, while keeping Leibniz's own name off of the proposal. Why? Presumably because Elsholtz's name would carry more weight in scientific circles. Elsholtz was already an established scholar in several sciences, whereas in 1679 Leibniz was still building his reputation and was far from being a big name in the field. The deleted remark, which is probably just a note to self, reveals Leibniz thinking strategically about how best to secure support for his project. If we had only the final version of the text, we would never see this glimpse of planning. Our final example comes from a text entitled Apology for Catholic Truth. Here, the deletion is just a single word, but it's revealing. In this text, Leibniz writes in the guise of a Catholic, addressing Protestants and trying to persuade them that their objections to Catholicism are unfounded. In the final version of the text, he refers to critics who believe that many of our dogmas are unsupported by scripture and antiquity. But originally, he wrote Roman dogmas. Leibniz quickly realised a problem. A Catholic author would hardly refer to Catholic teachings as Roman dogmas. So he corrected himself, so as not to give the game away that the author was in fact a Lutheran who was just pretending to be a Catholic. This small deletion tells us something interesting. When Leibniz wrote in the voice of a Catholic, he sometimes struggled to remain in character, and occasionally had to correct himself. There are other examples of this in the same text and in another work titled Examination of the Christian Religion. The deleted words and passages we've looked at here are just a tiny fraction of those recorded in the new 3-volume edition of Leibniz's philosophical papers. Together, they allow us to see something the earlier editions often concealed. Leibniz thinking on the page, hesitating, revising, and sometimes changing direction entirely. This is the 10th and final video in the series that goes behind the scenes of the new edition, exploring some of its features and how it was produced. I hope you found the series informative. If you have any comments or questions, please feel free to leave them below and I'll do my best to respond. Many thanks for your kind attention.